Hello there, everyone. Welcome to this final episode of Healthier, Happier You. I'm Dr. Alan Chong, the spine coach. I'm a chiropractor, a life coach, a speaker, soon-to-be author, and your host of Healthier, Happier You. It's not so new, but it's still new, Season 1, health talk show about real people, real issues, and real solutions. You see, for over 27 years of clinical practice, and I still do practice now, what I've learned is that patients want to get well, they're highly motivated to get well, but what they do have trouble with is staying well. So Healthier, Happier You is all about real life stories, real people, healthy lifestyle tips, and ways to get healthy and to stay healthy. And when you stay healthy, of course, you'll naturally be a healthier, happier you. Find out more about me at thespinecoach.com. And welcome if you're joining us live. If in replay, then that's fantastic too. If you're live though, please be sure to post your comments. We're following those. We'd love to have you as part of the discussion and the engagement, of course. But even in replay, you can post the event page or comment on YouTube and engage that way. All right, so today's topic, I'm really excited. It's our season wrap-up, and we're talking to a very special guest, Lisa Engles. But the topic and the theme is strengthening your power of practice. Now, you think, what's that all about? Well, you're going to find out that the most successful people in the world, do you want to know what the most successful people in the world have this one thing in common? Well, they have probably more than one thing in common, but for sure one thing in common, and that is healthy, successful practices, rituals or habits, in other words, practices that keep them focused and their ability to perform at a very high level at all times. So having a regular daily and weekly practice is so important even to health. And how I've witnessed that and seen that is that my healthiest patients didn't all start that way. In 3 years of practice, there's people that have followed and been under my care for years, and what I notice is that they have a few common things that they do to keep healthy and stay healthy. So, do you want to find out what those are? Do you want to hear what those are? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to tell you right now. But to get healthy and stay healthy, what they did was first looked after their problem from the acute and chronic, and actually worked on correcting their problem, fixing their problem properly. Now, obviously, you have to work with practitioners that believe in that philosophy. So what I've taught them practices to stay healthy. Do you want to know what these practices are? Of course you do. So number one is practice ideal posture. So to find ideal posture, and we don't have time to get into those details right now, but for example, that's one of the healthy practices that you can learn to do. Number two is get rid of malicious movements. Too much movement, for example, too much keyboarding, too much mousing. Change your habits, take regular breaks, get up from your chair a minimum of twice per hour. And even these sit-stand chairs, all these different great tools to have now. And take deep breaths. Look into the distance. Anyways, regular movement also. So too much movement, but also on the contrary, not enough movement. So regular movements like walking, of course running, which Lisa's going to tell us about, things like yoga that break up the cycle of the malicious movements. And then the number three practice that I teach that works to help people like you keep healthy and stay healthy is nourishing your body. Nourishing your body, for example, with 6 or more glasses of water per day. Purified, clean drinking water per day. Because water, of course, is an essential nutrient. healthy, real food, for example, and live foods, and clean air, clean environment, and careful choice of supplements with guidance, of course. Things like that for actual nourishment. So those are 3 practices. I'm kind of giving you the early healthy lifestyle tips, but my point is that people, if you want to achieve certain goals and sustain those, that performance, that energy, that health, then you've got to incorporate practices, whether it be healthy lifestyle habits. We're going to learn a lot more from our special guest today. I'm so honored to be interviewing and speaking with my mentor, one of my mentors, Lisa Engles. Here's her bio. Lisa Engles calls herself an evolutionary entrepreneur. She's a visionary, a coach, author, speaker, and consultant. She's the founder of Interstate Coaching, where for over 20 years she's helped people find their internal compass, regain their momentum in life, and awaken to their highest potential. Sounds great to me. Lisa's gifts include connecting and communicating with people, and that's obvious if you follow her on Google+. She's the host of the Google Hangouts on Air show, The Power of Practice. Guess why? We're talking about practices today. Lisa has mastered the art of creating deep and authentic levels of connection with her online audience. She's the creator of several unique coaching programs, including her latest success, Hangout Strategies for Visionary Leaders, to teach others, like yours truly, to create impactful Hangouts on Air shows. Lisa is the author of Breathe, Run, Breathe, Ancient Breathing Secrets to Turn Your Daily Run into an Effortless, Revitalizing, and Mindful Practice. Welcome to my friend and mentor in Google+, Lisa Engles. Hey, Lisa, welcome.
Hey, so happy to be here with you, Alan.
Well, it's quite the turn of tables, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm happy to be wrapping up the show with you, season finale, and to support you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And, you know, we have a special surprise today, don't we? And which we announced in the comments. And please be aware, we're going to open up the green room afterwards. So we'll get to that. But Lisa, hey, in your show, of course, and through life experience, what are the most common practices you heard, seen in successful people? And that's quite a general question, but you know, why don't you start off with that? Why don't we start off with that?
All right. So I think to start off the discussion of what are some of the most common practices, we need to define what practice is and how I define practice. You had your definition of practice, which you defined in the start of this show today. So to me, practice, there's 2 different definitions of practice, right? So we have like the type of practice like when you're trying to get good at a sport, like playing football or dribbling a basketball or playing the piano or the violin. You practice a movement or you practice a set of movements or something like that over and over again to gain mastery over that particular skill, right?
Right.
And then there's this other definition of practice that has more of a spiritual definition, which is it's an activity that you do in order to deepen your relationship with yourself or to see yourself for who you really are, the truth of who you really are. And so my definition of practice is actually a merging of those 2 definitions. And so within that definition, that means that a practice is going to show us our limits. And a practice is also going to be a reflection of where we're at right now. And a practice is also going to give us information about how to move further into that skill or whatever it is that we're working towards doing. So to answer your question, what are some of the most common practices? that I've seen around. Well, I see them in, like, if we look at mind, body, and spirit, or body, mind, and spirit, and look at each one of those, like, common body practices would be like going to the gym and
Right.
exercising on a daily basis, or yoga, tai chi, qigong. Those might be some of your daily body practices. Mind practices might be something like a daily practice of inquiry, like, is that thought really true? Shattering your belief systems.
Or meditation. Meditation is a common practice of very successful people.
So meditation would be in the realm of spirit, right? So we have contemplative prayer or centering prayer, meditation, TM type of stuff. So yeah, so those are some of the common types of practices that you see around now. Yeah, so just, that's in answer to your question.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, that's I like how you break that down, and your program, of course, which we're going to talk about in a couple minutes here. Breathe, Run, Breathe kind of breaks it down even further, doesn't it? And I read your book, and it's awesome. So some concepts that we're going to talk about with the viewers a little bit later. In fact, one specific practice, and that is of breathing. But before that, you know, having interviewed and certainly observing, what do you think are like, if we were to hone down a couple of the most successful practice, or the most highly acclaimed practices that you either read about, hear about, witnessed yourself in highly successful people, what would you say those couple practices are?
Like, hands down, the ones that you hear about are prayer or meditation. Honestly, you hear every great leader has some form of a spiritual practice, not necessarily religious, but spiritual. They have a centering prayer practice. They have a meditation practice where they do some type of journaling and self-inquiry. Those would be, hands down, the ones that I've seen across the board with successful people.
Right. And why do you think that contributes to their success, or our success, if we adopt that?
That's a great question, and I believe it does because it's a part of our waking up. Waking up requires us to go deeper into our spiritual states. So we can be right now just in our waking state, but if you look at the monks and masters of spiritual, I mean, you don't have to look at world leaders, but there is a piece that is undeniable in that spiritual realm, that as you start to master those practices, you literally start to wake up, which is what in Eastern realms they called enlightenment. Right? And
exactly, enlightenment.
Call them wisdom practices.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's why often I believe that when we see and hear and listen to these leaders and highly successful people, is there's something different about those people. Like there's an energy, there's a charisma, right? And it comes through, I think, usually in someone with life experience, or as they say, old spirits and such, right? Don't you find that, Lisa?
Yeah. I mean, definitely there's an age thing.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I'm not saying it has to be an age thing.
It does contribute to wisdom, but nobody can escape the fact that we have to move through certain levels in order to experience awakening. So there's a time factor in that, right? Just because we're human beings living in this lifetime, time is required to gain what you're talking about. So there is a time factor, which usually takes more than just 12 years, like my daughter.
Yeah, and there are some exceptions. I mean,
there are some exceptions. You're right.
For sure. Sure. I'm going to pop up what Pamela says. Is that Pamela's even just, she says, practice to show us our limits. Great point, Lisa Engles. I like the spiritual side of it. Thank you for sharing that there, Pamela. So let's get to what you are super excited about, and that is tell me the practice of breathe, run, breathe, like pranayama breathing. Tell me what that's all about.
Yeah, so breath work and breathing is an ancient practice. It's not something that I made up. It's something, though, that I have found. It's a practice that we can use. So remember, just a moment ago, I talked about body, mind, and spirit. And what's really cool is that the practice of breath and breathing can unify and bridge you across all three of those components of being a human being. So you don't have to use breath work while exercising, but what the book, Breathe, Run, Breathe, talks about is using a very specific type of breathing, a specific type of pranayama, and pranayama is this Sanskrit word which in a real general sense means breath control. So it's a way of controlling your breath while moving to elicit a different state, more of a meditative state, which then can transcend us from the body while moving. So that's sort of esoteric, but that's setting the stage here for what we'll talk about.
And can you help are you able to briefly explain what that breathing, how it's different? And
well, before I explain how the breathing is different, I think it's very important for viewers to understand why the breath.
Sure, true enough. Why a certain type of disciplined breathing?
Yeah, so as you know, Alan, being a health practitioner for almost 30 years, that the breath is critical to our health and our well-being, our actual body health. And science and research, you can go into PubMed, which is the medical library, at least in the United States, PubMed, it's the medical library that anybody can go to for research. And you can type in breathing and disease, those two words, and find out the link between improper breathing and disease, which Dr. Andrew Weil, who's an integrative medicine doctor, talks about. If there was one practice that he could teach all of his patients to help reverse or to be proactive in their health, it would be how to breathe correctly. So the problem really is that most of us breathe incorrectly because of stress responses that we have in our body. So that sets the stage for why I was so interested in working with the breath and applying it to this realm of exercise, because if we breathe incorrectly just every day, just me sitting here at my desk, and I take that incorrect breathing now into my exercise, I'm further exacerbating the potential downsides of incorrect breathing, which is what my observation was of all the athletes that I was coaching. The runners and triathletes are chronically injured. They're chronically overtrained. They have overactive adrenals. They have overactive sympathetic nervous system. That's basically to tell our viewers here that I think everybody is familiar with those terms, adrenaline and cortisol. And when those hormones are being pumped into your body all the time, it causes over time the inability to heal.
Right, and it causes tissue breakdown and slow, delayed healing, the whole bit.
Which is horrible for an athlete, right?
Yeah, self-destructive, and the person doesn't even know it. So can you give us the skinny on the breathing technique so we can start to breathe better?
So the breathing technique is really just about breathing, nasal breathing through your nose versus breathing through your mouth. Our nose is made for breathing. Our mouth is made for... In and
out, Lisa? In and out breathing?
In and out. So inhale and exhale through your nose. So like I said, our nose is made for breathing. Our mouth is made for eating. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. I won't go into the science of it, but the book has the science of why it's so critical to only breathe through your nose and not your mouth. But it takes practice. It is a practice.
Obviously. A lot of practice, maybe.
A lot of practice. And not only breathe in and out through your nose, but to practice extending the breath as long as you can in and out through your nose while exercising, which takes even more practice because your breath rate is directly related to your heart rate. It's also directly connected with your nervous system and your brainwave state. So there's all types of physiological things that are in order. When you control your breath, a lot of things change in your physiology, and it's super cool, is all I can say.
I was after I read your book, which I just got, by the way, and we're going to have to get you to tell the audience of how they can get a hold of your book, purchase your book. We'll do that in a couple minutes, but the thing that I got out of was this diaphragmatic breathing, that you really need to develop quality breathing, and it takes time, like you say, using the diaphragm. And I almost felt out of breath because I was trying to breathe in and out through my nose, and I'm not getting enough. I'm not getting enough. Is that normal?
That's totally normal, and the reason why it's normal is because our diaphragm is our primary breathing musculature. It's the primary muscle that we use for breathing, but when we aren't breathing correctly, we use secondary breathing muscles. We use our upper chest, we use our neck and shoulders, which is why so many people have chronic neck pain and tightness in through the shoulders and the upper chest. And when we're using those secondary muscles, we're not using our diaphragm. So when you start to breathe through your nose, only through your nose exclusively, you have to rebuild your diaphragm muscle. Your diaphragm muscle is no different than your biceps and lifting weights. You would never go, me as a woman, I would never go to lift 50-pound dumbbells or even 35-pound dumbbells without lifting 15 pounds first, because I got to build that muscle. And the same is true of the diaphragm. And the really cool thing is that you don't need to do anything fancy to build the strength of your diaphragm, except for this type of controlled breath work.
Right, which is all described in your book. So you're going to have to get her book. Lisa, what's an interesting fact is that even babies actually breathe initially mostly through their nose, unless, of course, they have a cold, and that's why they really have a tough time when they have a cold. And even adults, when we're sleeping, are designed really to breathe through our nose. So, in fact, the tongue on the palate keeps the palate healthy, and in an infant and baby, it actually expands the palate so that it develops normally, which is kind of cool. Side note.
Yeah, and it is true, and that's the age when we develop faulty breathing patterns, because you're right, as a kid, as a little baby, you're crying because your nose is stuffy, and then you go back to normal breathing. But breathing through the mouth is a normal stress response, which happens when you're an infant, when you're sick, when you have a stressful situation in the body, and it becomes habituated in the body as you grow older. So you just have to undo that habit.
Right, exactly. So just right here now, are you able to give us a couple tips as to how we could, say, sitting at our computers at such day-to-day, breathe more through our nose, or learn to, essentially breathe through our nose?
Well, so it really is, what's cool about it is it really is as easy as just breathing through your nose. And what I invite people to do is when you're sitting and practicing it, that's great. You can breathe through your nose, but I invite you to imagine the full breath and diaphragmatic breath, which would be imagining that through your torso it's expanding in all 360 degrees, and you don't just expand out in front, but that you expand behind and to the sides as well. So there's a way of just visualizing that, maybe like as if there was a balloon, a red balloon inside of you, that as you inhale it expands, As you exhale, it contracts. And so as you're doing that, you're wanting to make sure that all of the breath is coming deep and low and that there's no movement in your upper body. So it's something that you can also practice standing in front of a mirror, that you're not having movement up and down in the shoulders, your head isn't going back, things like that aren't happening. Now you can begin to practice it a little bit more when you're just out walking your dog or when you're out for a stroll. And I have 3 rules that I always tell people when they're practicing this, which is, the first one is breathe through your nose, don't breathe through your mouth. The second one is you should never feel any stress or strain in your breath when you're learning this, because if you're feeling stress and strain, then that means you're activating the sympathetic nervous system and shooting out all of those stress hormones. So we want to keep you in a relaxed physical, mental, and emotional state as you're learning it. And then finally, I always tell people, the slower you go, the faster you're going to improve. And I mean that in 2 ways. The slower, the more you can lengthen out your breath, and the slower you can make your breath, the faster you're going to improve, because you're going to strengthen that diaphragm muscle even more. And then also, don't try to go for a run or walk really fast and then get into that stress and strained breath. Go slow. Be easy. Be gentle with yourself. So it's an opposite. I tell people it's moving from a workout mentality to a practice mentality, because it is a practice.
So it's, if I can kind of summarize what I gathered from that, breathing through the nose, both, say, during a walk, so you start some exercise, in and out through the nose to what you can tolerate. In other words, your body will tell you if you're gasping for air and you say you can't do this anymore, that's a little too fast or too much. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. If you feel, even hopefully you would understand before that sometimes I'll get, I would get athletes or clients coming to me saying, I did that whole run breathing through my nose. It was hard, but I did it. I'm like, well, the point is it's not supposed to be hard. When if it was hard, if you were able to eke your way through the entire thing, like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the point. That's
painful.
A wrong thing.
Wrong thing. Well, that's awesome. What I'm going to, let's see, who do we want to show here? Oh, yeah, a reminder. Today we have a special celebration to end the show. So we're going to post the after show green room, and I invite all the live viewers to come into the green room. We're not going to do that till the very end, but to please hang in there with the show and join us to share what you liked and what you want to see in upcoming shows. If you catch this on replay, simply just comment and see what you want to see in upcoming shows. So that's something I wanted to announce today. I want to share what Kat here says. Alan, Chong, Lisa Engles, I would love to learn to breathe better when exercising. I played rugby for years, a lot of anaerobic. With exercise-induced asthma, treated with inhalers, can I unlearn exercise-induced asthma? Ooh,
yeah, and you know what? That's such a great question, because incorrect breathing, asthma can be completely reversed by breathing correctly and by learning how to breathe. And there's a doctor, well, he's no longer alive, who's done a ton of research, and there's a whole method from which I have basically borrowed much of these ideas from Dr. Buteyko, Butekyo. I think I'm spelling it right. You can look him up, Dr. Buteyko, nasal breathing, and he actually started it for people with asthma, so you don't have to take any inhalers or medicine for exercise-induced asthma.
Right. Well, that's amazing. Anyways, maybe Lisa, we can afterwards post that on the comments or something, so that there's a reference to that for those people who are watching in replay. But yeah, we're starting to wrap up the show here. One of the things, normally I have a healthy lifestyle tip, which I gave early in this show. And before we ask Lisa to kind of wrap up with her closing comments, I want to make an announcement that this will be the last Healthier, Happier You show, but not the last you'll see of me online, because I'm launching a new show, which is basically a rebrand. It's going to be more focused, and I haven't. You're going to have to watch for that. Please watch for that in February, and I'll give you some quick clues. As we are going to address, as thespinecoach.com, living pain-free and energized to a wide audience, but really living pain-free and energized. So people who want to live pain-free and energized, which I think anybody in pain, discomfort, gets drained of energy, that's what we're going to be doing. This is so it's kind of saying goodbye to the last episode of Healthier, Happier You, and but it's not the last you'll see of me or Lisa. Certainly, Lisa, I'd love to talk to you again on this show, perhaps in the new season, which will be February 2015. That's going to launch. So, Lisa, I'm going to give you the opportunity. How can people get a hold of you, other than the showcase, but certainly, how can people get a best hold of you, get your book, all that stuff?
Sure. Well, you can actually just go to interstatecoaching.com, and there's a button right there to buy the book. So that's all set up already right on my homepage of my website. That's the easiest way. Otherwise, you can circle me on Google+, Lisa Engles.
Awesome. And last minute encouragements or for our viewers?
Yeah, well, going along this same line of our breathing, we're in these stressful holiday times. So this is a perfect opportunity.
I'm breathing.
Yeah, exactly, to breathe your way through the holidays. So, yeah.
Awesome. In through the nose, out through the nose. And it really does take some discipline to do that, doesn't it? But it is refreshing. It's a different, and it uses, I can feel the diaphragm, my diaphragm being used. So, Lisa, maybe at this point we'll post the green room link as we wrap up the show for, I'm just going to wrap up the show with a couple comments while we post the link to enter the green room. I invite all of the live viewers to enter the green room, and we're going to have a little after show party. And so it is about time to wrap up the show for today. For those in replay, of course, it will be a wrap. There will not be a green room and afterwards. I want to give a special thank you, Lisa, to my special guest. You've been great. You've actually helped me coach. So if you're to host a hangout and to even sign up on Google+, it's amazing. That was just how many months ago?
I know, you've done amazing since, I think, May.
Yeah.
Like, ramped up, man.
Beginning of May.
Awesome.
My own show. Who would have thought it? So I know that each one of you can live a healthier, happier life if you simply learn and apply some healthier lifestyle habits, some practices that you embrace and choose and use every day so that you can become that person that you deserve to be, that healthier, happier you. So once again, be sure to go to thespinecoach.com. On the side, to the right side, you should see the link to the show page, but it's thespinecoach.com to watch replays. That's your call to action today. To watch replays, go to thespinecoach.com, click the top tab that says The Show, and you'll have access to all the replays of this whole season. So there's been some great shows. I look forward to your comments and engagement afterwards. And please, if you have questions and such, contact me. So more about the show, thespinecoach.com, my online programs. You can get it all there. Thanks for watching. See you next season as we relaunch with a different show name, but we're going to have great guests. We're going to address living pain-free and energized. see you next year in 2015. I'm Dr. Alan Chong, the spine coach. Please join us for the after party show if you're watching us live. I think we have the link posted, so just click that link and we'll watch for you in the green room. But until then and next season, have a great day. We'll see you next year.